Hi, and welcome to Epiphanies. I'm Reverend Jessie Brandon, and I'm a life cycle celebrant as well as a metaphysical minister. And this is my opportunity to bring my two loves together, books and people. So today, while I'm going to be talking about The Secret, I want you to grab a cup of tea or coffee, settle into a comfy chair, and let's see where we go with the book and with my guest, Richard Morden. So The Secret was a big deal several years ago, and it's by Rhonda Byrne. It's a compilation of several people in the, we'll call it self-help industry. And let me read you a little bit out of the front of the book. It says, fragments of a great secret have been found in the oral traditions, in literature, in religions and philosophies throughout the centuries. For the first time, all the pieces of the secret come together in an incredible revelation that will be life-transforming for all who experience it. In this book, you'll learn how to use the secret in every aspect of your life: money, health, relationships, happiness, and in every interaction you have in the world. And without further ado, let me invite Richard Morden on the set. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Jessie. How are you?
I'm great. It's so good that you could make time to come. Thank you. Settle in. And if you'd like some cold water.
Water would be great.
Water. All right. Let me just swap out that. And that is fresh water there. And I'm just going to read your bio and let everybody know a little bit about you. So you are a certified EFT, which is Emotional Freedom Technique practitioner, and a certified emotional success coach. You hold a life coach position for a BNI group in Barrie, and you're a member of a wellness team in downtown Barrie. I'm going to get you to talk about that a little bit later, a team called Quantum Wellness. And you work with people creating choices and beneficial outcomes from their current situation. And this could be, they could be going through a divorce, widowed, separation, grief of any form, and it really does cover the whole spectrum, doesn't it? I don't think people realize that. But communication blocks, bullying, being able to work on your own boundaries. So it's just, your work is really all-encompassing, isn't it?
Thank you, yes.
Yeah. So tell me, Richard, why did you choose The Secret?
Actually, one thing caught me the whole book. I read the book and I watched the movie, and it kind of caught me, and it said, when you said you create your life by the way you think, and my question was, how are you supposed to think? You know, and underneath that, I didn't understand the word intention, and nobody had ever talked to me about this, and just we come from our dark place of not being aware of things. So that put me on a tremendous path of discovery for many years on my own.
Really?
Reading anything I could find relating to thinking, understanding how we process thoughts. Again, I was downloading MP3s, watching YouTube videos, I mean, hours of audios and books just on what is this thinking thing. I know, we go to school, we think, but thinking about how to create our life, I hadn't heard that before.
I totally get that, because my father constantly said to me as a child, can't you think? And it would instantly make me so shocked. I didn't know how to think. So I get what you're saying. What is this think thing you're talking about, you know? Yeah,
I don't think we realized how dark or how vacant our thoughts were. We weren't empty-minded, but they certainly weren't constructive. We was just focusing on task, but not anything projection-wise. So.
Yeah. Now, what do you mean projection-wise?
Well, with intentions and what would we like, because when you grow up sometimes in working families, you don't really have an expectation of things. And, you just know the next day you have to work. I grew up on a farm. My dad was ex-military, so it was very, I knew the rules. They were very strong, but it was just work.
Yeah.
So the only thing I had to really sometimes, the next day was going to be work, not like I was, we were going on trips and we didn't have a lot of money. We had food and shelter, and we had safe boundaries, but most families back then didn't. Some traveled, we didn't. We just said we had the basics.
Yeah.
And then from there, you developed a mindset: I'm going to go out and work for someone else, or be the good worker bee, which I had been my whole life. But what else am I supposed to look forward to? I don't know. No one told me I could.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? When you watch, like, I think we're sort of in the same age zone, and I think of my parents, it was just about getting up and getting that work done every day, and not beyond that. Not, am I happy in life? How can I make myself happy? Have I ever really thought about the beyond? I mean, my parents were very strict Baptists, so they thought they had that covered. But it was really interesting, because I think in my mom's later years, she began to question, because it didn't answer enough for her. So speaking of answers, did you get some from The Secret?
In a sense, yes, but looking at, I mean, a lot of mystical stuff, which I didn't understand at the time either, but just, again, that expectation was something else that came in, expecting something. Then how do I expect it? What do you expect what? Again, looking for something joyful. You know, I didn't understand what, we all had sort of what we call happy childhoods, but not joyful. But again, it was limited in the sense of what could we be happy about? What could we actually have that that enjoyed that? So you look for simple things, like I said, growing up in farms, being out with nature. I was fortunate that I was in nature for a long time, in the sense, even though it was work, I still was connected. We had a garden, we had food, things like that. But looking beyond that to how do I connect with other people? That was my next phase of, because we grew up very shy. How do I actually communicate with people? I wasn't very good at communicating at all. People thought I was a snob in school, but I mean, I just didn't know how to communicate, And that's come in all of my later years from the book and the work I've done to develop myself inside. Yeah.
Now, was there anyone in particular that you studied in the book? Because I do know, like, for instance, there's... Okay, I'm looking at the foreword, but I know there's so many different people in here.
Some of Mike Dooley's work I like. I follow. You sort of hit and miss it sometimes. I like Mike Dooley when he talked about your thoughts create things. And again, I think I followed each of them in an aspect of learning something from each one, little threads. Do I say specifically what I remember? No, but I mean, what I've followed lately is Joe Dispenza's work.
Love him.
His meditation work, and now the last few years, it's become such a forefront of the intensity of his work and his meditation, very intense meditations, and how people are, again, I think Jen C.B. talked about in her book, changing your life, and then the power of thought and power of that. So I mean, he's been one that's been probably the strongest of them all, coming through into what we have present day. But each person, I can't remember the names, but I bought different videos on them, watched the, oh my goodness, I'm trying to think, the lady that was the deaf lady that
Helen Keller?
No, from one of the books.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I think of her video, What the Bleep Are We?
Oh, right.
Yeah, things, watching all that, I've had those for years on my shelf, and now you have to go back and re-watch them to see what's there again. But you just keep finding more material to add into this. How can I learn more and be more? I'm addicted to being a lifetime learner.
Yes.
So always looking to find something in here that would be just, how do I be better for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned is that, I've watched a lot of the videos and MP3s and listened to all of that stuff. And it used to be that I took all kinds of courses. I probably have more certificates and degrees than most people we know. To what purpose? It was all because I was learning little bits from each thing, and then it became books. And I of course, love books. I've read since I was about 5 years old. So now I find that in talking to people is when I get so much from what they've learned, and it illuminates a path for me. And I just enjoy that so much. So, and Mike Dooley, of course, is one of my favorites. I absolutely love him. TUT.com, Thoughts from the Universe, get those every day. And another one of my favorites is Neil Donald Walsh, and Conversations with God, and then that whole thing. And I get the messages from God every day, or Conversations with God. I don't even know what they're called. I just open them and read them and take them in. So. So there wasn't anybody in particular in the book that you followed? You just kind of took a little bit from
everybody? I took a little bit from each one, and I just carried on. I mean, I've read so many, like and I have threads of memories. Can I actually put it down each author over the time? I mean, I've been a lifetime reader too. I've always felt reading was two things. It was a privilege and a gift to be able to read. you know, and in a sense for growing up, it was somewhat an escape, but it also was an education. I say I'm not educated per sense of scholastically, even though I've finished high school. I'm educated because I've continued to learn and follow things and read stuff I had no comprehension of, but I pushed myself through it just because there was threads I picked up, and every time you push yourself to grow. And I'm very adamant about that because it's about my own growth is paramount for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the only way that we can continue to expand is
Yes.
to continue to learn and grow and pay attention to the things that are out there. And as you say, seek true joy and that happiness that everybody, it's elusive to most people. And yet when you think about it, it's really right there in front of you. It really is just about being in the moment.
Yes.
And reading something that just makes your heart pound harder and makes you feel like you're full of joy because you can feel yourself changing your perspective and becoming just a little bit more you.
Well, interesting, it says we read books and we say, okay, I've read that book, then you go back and it's like you never read it before. You know, just a year later, look, I don't remember that, but you know, we've changed, our perspectives changed. So every time you read something, you pick up something different.
Yes.
And to go back and read them again and read little snippets out of it, and then just now I'm more thorough in a book. I go through a book and I'm actually writing notes about it.
Oh, yeah.
So instead of just say I've got it on my shelf, I'm making documents from the book, and because that's something that helps me incorporate the teachings from the book.
Oh,
so
very good.
it's much more. It takes me much longer now to read a book, but I'm taking that into my work as a practitioner as well, and how I see people and connect with people and help them with the language. Our language is so critical, how we say things to ourselves, how we speak about ourselves, and how we understand ourselves. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it starts as simply as, for instance, when I realized that I didn't have the book that another guest was going to be talking about, and I went, "Oh, that's so stupid." And I thought, "No, it's not. I just didn't prepare properly the way I should have." And so now I'll find a different way to deal with this situation. But that language of, when we're little and we hear, don't be stupid and you better think about that, and all those things that cause you to think unkindly towards yourself, you have to turn that around because that's not helping you. It doesn't help you grow. It doesn't help you become who you really are. It merely adds to the pain and perhaps even by extension the depression that you end up feeling because you're listening to all those words that you say to yourself because you're repeating what you heard.
Well, interesting comment because and somebody said, where have you been wrong for all the choices you've made in your life? And as somebody else I follow, a lot of other teachers I follow, and realize we're made wrong by well-meaning parents, judging us, saying don't do that, or why did you say that? But the choices become every time we have an experience in life. We have partners and relationships. Oh, I was wrong. I should have never gone out with a person. You weren't wrong. You made a choice to have an engagement with somebody. You made a choice to go down the street. You made a choice. We can't be wrong for choices. We have to make choices every day. So and those are our experiences. So don't be wrong from. But that's, you said that doubt. Everything is that doubt. So now we go back into that status space of I'm not going to do anything. And it's,
and then you start to
pull it in.
Pull it in.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop you there because we're going to take a quick break. You're watching Epiphanies. My guest is Richard Morden, and we're talking about The Secret. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about The Secret and about what Richard does in our community. Thanks, and we'll see you in just a moment. You're watching Epiphanies. Hi, and welcome back to Epiphanies. I'm here with my guest, Richard Morden, and we've been talking about The Secret, that book that was so popular in the movie just a few years ago, and so many things have come out of this book. And Richard, so tell me, what do you do now as a result of, you said you've done so much reading and research and exploring for yourself. Where did that take you in your life?
Synchronicities are in my life have really been a lot of guidance through how things have shown up in my life. You know, I've experienced a lot of trauma in my life. You know, losing loved ones. I've lost 10 people in my life that I've known and loved very dearly. You know, parents and siblings and families. So I understand the book took me through that path into learning even about EFT back in 2013.
Right.
Early days now. So, you know, synchronicity of there, learning, just beginning that craft before my wife had passed, you know, so as I took that, I had something to work towards. So now as I've moved into, after it said beyond my working career, into my, I always wanted another career after my employment, because I said I've been a good worker bee, I've been a good employee. Now I'm looking to build myself. As I say, I'm put a position as a transition coach, but I'm doing that very thing. Going from, you know, being the worker to being the entrepreneur. You know,
Well, we teach what we need to learn, right?
Absolutely, and I believe fully in transparency that I only teach what I can do. You know, so I'm quite willing to show people my life in a sense of how the steps I've taken to reach this point of working, you know, now being a practitioner out in the marketplace, you know, looking to helping people through change points and looking more to connect with even the men's side, because in all the work I took, when I took all these courses, I would be the only guy in the class.
Yes,
You know,
yes. I know what you mean. We need more men who are, you know, moving ahead as you are and expanding yourself and being there to help other men do the same walk.
So my discovery was, I guess, because I was so detached from my emotions growing up through traumas, and I had to connect to my emotions, that going into those courses, I realized how many people aren't connected there. You know, so my work is to, you know, as myself doing what I do, but helping other people connect to their emotions and understand it's not that painful to process them. It's more painful to bury them.
It really is.
Yeah.
I know, I remember an instructor saying to me that when you resist something, you think that you're resisting here, but the pain is here in the resistance.
Yeah.
And that's where the work needs to be done, is releasing that resistance to it.
And understanding when we've been burying emotions for hundreds of years, especially through wars, because after war, which is a huge part of trauma, we bury it, but unfortunately it carries through. A lot of work I'm studying now is generational trauma, because if we don't deal with it, it carries into the next generation for sure.
Absolutely.
It shows up in our children. I mean, this is medically documented in the sense of how traumas are showing up, in the sense and illnesses show up, traumatic things show up, and, you know, our children have never experienced this and we can't figure out why. But until we deal with it ourselves, then we give that freedom to our children. You know?
Absolutely.
And so for me, going through all this point, it was really doing my own work, because I have 2 children, adult children, that it makes their life more free. And choices energetically, spiritually, and emotionally, they can go out and live their life. So I'm adamant about doing my own work in this field of, I'm my own best client. And it helps me as I do that. So when I work with a client, I'm not triggered by anything they're doing. I'm in a state of compassion and awareness, and again, Carol talked about that facilitation. It helps me facilitate, because I'm just present and aware of what's going on, and I can help move them through these processes without drama.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Tell me a little bit more about EFT.
Well, emotional freedom technique, again, was initially brought in by thought field therapy, Roger Callahan, and a gentleman named Gary Craig was an engineer, studied it, and he brought it into, like, it used to be, I mean, almost 50 or 60 different tapping meridian energy points in the body, and Gary brought it into about 7 or 8 points, and it made sense. So watching that, just the meridian, the touch points on the body seemed very simple. Now it seems flunky, and said, what are you doing? But these are all meridian points, all relating to major governing vessels in our body. As our body stores the emotions, and again, all the energy, and all our memories are stored in there, we get to release them. Now, we don't have to have a great cognitive sense when I teach people. As I work, I teach people. You don't have to understand really what this is all about. It's just a process. I teach as I go, so understanding that you can sit there and easily learn this yourself. You can go on YouTube and watch some videos, and just, you know, it's a way of self-care.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you find that along with that self-care, initially, people need to have, I'm a strong believer in talk therapy because I know that's what saved me. I needed to talk to somebody and have them hear me and listen. And then as they helped me walk through the various modalities that helped me grow and expand, I could take them on myself and do them for myself. Is there any chance you'd be willing to walk through an EFT course? Would you do
What
that
I will
for me?
say too, though, people are afraid of it by themselves, and truly, you will never get in trouble by yourself doing this. You may shed some tears, emotion may come through, but you'll never be in a traumatic state by yourself because your system won't let you. It needs that
True.
witness.
Yeah.
So when somebody else who's an experience in the sense of helping facilitate, then it's almost like your system knows, oh, I'm safe. I have support.
Yeah.
So eventually, the basic EFT would talk about just the tapping on the heel of the hand, and acknowledging the problem. And the biggest thing we do with this is acknowledge what the situation is. We're not giving you an affirmation. We're giving you like, I feel like crap today. I feel like I've done the worst thing in the world. And if you have to get into a whole bunch of 4-letter language to do this, then that's perfectly fine. But coming to acceptance of yourself in this acknowledgement, this is what I feel like today.
Okay.
And then, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm
No.
going to say, okay, I forgot that book that I was talking about. So walk me through clearing that feeling bad about forgetting the book. So.
Okay, so I forgot the book, and I feel I'm quite embarrassed. I was unprepared.
Okay.
So even though I've been unprepared, this is a tough one. I choose to deeply love and accept myself. Many people have a challenge with that, so we modify that because we realize I don't accept myself. So we modify, well, I accept that I can't accept myself. We come to reality of what we actually feel like, and I lack self-acceptance. Actually, I quite despise myself. Whatever it is, we acknowledge, because there's no right or wrong in that. So just learning to accept ourselves is a big part of this. Unwavering acceptance is a big part of our being present. We have situations in our life. Oh, I'm terrified. But then I hate myself for doing it. Why could I? We beat ourselves up. Well, beat yourself up.
Okay.
But you'll be surprised how quickly that dispenses to you. Kind of go, well, that's not so bad now.
Walk me through. You went like this. So
Okay,
walk
so
me through it.
then we heel the hand, then we do the center of the eyebrow, and I'm not going to name all the points, but each
That's
one
fine.
belongs to the government. Center of the eyebrow, side of the eyes, either one hand or two, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Under the eyes,
Under
and
the
just
eyes.
lightly. It's more intentional than anything.
Yeah.
Under the nose, chin point, anywhere in here. And often people find this very tender. This is a big one. This is what people do. They'll sit there when they're stressed to massage, and then under the arm, around for women, around the bra strap, and then the top of the head, anywhere on top of the head. The head's got hundreds of touch points, and we just go through. Even I forgot my book. I can't believe I forgot my book. With that. And as we walk through, we look and we try to ask people, where do you feel this in your body? This is the hard part because we're not used to feeling our body. So we tell you, and this for somebody brand new, it's like, they're going to feel my body. What do you mean? So then it might be, I forgot my book. Might be all of a sudden my throat's, I can't speak. And this is a lot of people can't speak their truth.
Right.
The denial of self and my heartache for grief like that. But the truth, families, you never had a voice. Your voice solves. You go speak, and it's like, it's like somebody swallowed a football. That's a big step for a lot of people, speaking up for themselves.
Right.
And setting boundaries is another one for people. They're not, they're so used to just doing as they're told, and people come and just take advantage of them all the time, and their families take advantage, and they can't say no.
Right. So what you're telling me is that EFT is about walking through the meridians while telling yourself that yes, you feel bad because I feel bad because I forgot the book, but I still love myself. That doesn't mean anything bad about me. It just means that I forgot a book.
But maybe the point you said, I love yourself, maybe you're not there yet.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I don't love myself, but I'm going to maybe I can just accept that I'm still angry at myself.
Okay, you're hitting your mic.
Oh, sorry. Pounding, right? Sorry. We just go with what we feel. But the biggest thing is like affirmations were around for a long time, but not the falseness, but the point is, I'm a millionaire. Meanwhile, we haven't got 2 cents in our pocket. It's such counterintuitive. It's almost like you're joking.
Yeah. Well, I've always believed that they say the law of attraction, you can attract it to you, But you have to be at that vibration. You can't just say, oh, well, I want $1 million. I want $1 million. It doesn't come to you that way. You have to have raised your vibration and your understanding of everything to be able to do that. Now, I have to stop you there because, of course, I need to say to my guests, to my viewers, that if you'd like to talk to Richard or myself about the book, about anything that Richard has spoken about today, please email me at jessie@jessiebrandon.ca, and I'll address any questions you have and direct you. All of your credentials will be up on the screen so that people will be able to find you. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here with me today. I have one last question for you. What is an epiphany that you can recall in your life that you can share with us?
I don't know about epiphany, but I think for me, coming to that self-acceptance was a huge portion. I had to work really hard to say I could love myself. You know, that was never there for a long time because it was such a, it was buried pretty good. But again, the work is worth it. You know, and not to be afraid of the work.
Yeah.
You know, it's priceless to have that freedom inside you. Be home.
That's awesome. Again, thank you so much. I'm glad you could make it here today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Epiphanies. We'll be back next week with a new guest and a new book. I hope you've enjoyed yourself today, and go have some more tea. It's good for you, good for the soul. Thanks for watching.